What's up, Facebook? It's Kenny and Hannah again. It's been a while since we've recorded one of these podcasts. We're kind of forgetting how to do it. At least I'm getting old. She's aging backwards. Like Benjamin Button style. Hashtag. But we're about to get started, so share this, like this. You'll be able to find this on the full recorded video on Facebook, on the YouTube.
The tube.
The audio is going to be on Soundcloud. It's going to be in Apple Podcast Store, which, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, please go subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. Just look up the Business Rising Podcast, or you can look up my name, Kenny Lang. That's Lange. It'll sneak up on you. Or Hannah Bauer. That one's a little easier to spell, although you'll probably mess up the word Hannah, because I think there's multiple ways to... My phone tried to autocorrect it into like one N, an A, and no H.
Oh.
So I guess Silicon Valley's decided that your name should change.
I guess so.
Anyway, so we're about to sit down and get going. So share it, like it, post some comments because we're monitoring. And we may even answer your questions at the very end. How awesome would that be? Anyways, let's get going.
Okay.
Did we get a comment already?
No.
No, just nobody's paying attention.
We didn't. Okay, so let's get...
Watching me from there is trippy.
Yeah.
But I like it.
Okay, so we're gonna get started.
We're here on the delicious dish.
Hope this goes well, that we know what we're talking about, that we remember what we're...
Really nice to be here. I want to talk about inbound marketing. I want you to have leads.
1 to 10, you talk like that the whole time. Maybe next time. Okay, here we go. Are we ready?
Not at all, but let's...
Yep, we're just going to go with it, aren't we? Okay, we're going to...
Bring in the heat. Get it started. Get that bit. I like to get it.
Can tell that that's
Where
a
is...
drink by the way that it is. You think you're going to nail this, but you're not.
You know what? That was a little too close.
Okay, so sorry. All right, gotta remember our intro, but I think I got it because I'm awesome. So we're recording in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, you're listening to the Business Rising Podcast, where we provide education, application, and inspiration for busy business leaders. I'm here with Kenny Lang, the founder and caffeine enthusiast. Say what's up.
What's up?
And I myself am Hannah Bauer, and today we are going to be talking about entrepreneurship and how to tell if you are an entrepreneur or on your way to becoming an entrepreneur. So clues that you're an entrepreneur, tips on how to continue being an entrepreneur, and basically how to succeed in business.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, so...
I hope you're going to teach us a lot of good stuff.
I hope so. But we're going to do that by interviewing you.
So are you the captain of the entrepreneurship today?
I am, yeah. Left my hat at home.
We should totally have captain's hats on the next recording. For those of you listening, we do a Facebook Live broadcast, which we're doing right now. Hey, Facebook Live. And we also post this on the YouTube. So if you're listening to this on SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts, after you give us a 5, 6, or 7-star review, then you should go and check out the videos, because sometimes videos are cool. I don't think we've broken anybody's screens yet.
I hope not.
Unless they're like, oh my gosh, these are awesome looking people, and then they were just so shocked that they dropped their device.
I've heard that's happened to a couple people, actually.
Yeah.
We did not refund the
No.
devices that were broken, so...
Butterfingers. Man, that made me hungry. But, yeah, so check us out on some other platforms, because that may be easier. Also, Hannah does some pretty awesome takeaways if you're into reading. And or you would just like a quick summary, because I know most of our podcasts are 45 minutes to an hour. You may not have that much time to listen, or you may get 30 minutes through and be like, hey, tired of hearing their voices.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes
I
me
don't think
sad
that
in my
would happen,
heart.
But
I cry into my pillow thinking about that. But we want to create avenues for people to connect with us.
exactly.
So, and we want you to get the most out of this. We want this to be beneficial. So whether that's video or just listening to an audio on the treadmill, running on the street, not like in the middle of it, but on the side. Driving, bicycling.
Yeah. People do
Wind surfing.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Hang gliding.
Windsurfing. That's really hard.
Hang gliding.
Hang gliding. You can do that if you want to. Or
Yeah.
if you're on a roller coaster.
You can get some good earbuds.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So anyway, check that out.
Totes.
You can find all of that. Actually, you can find all the links to the different platforms we use in the takeaways in the show notes. So check it out on our...
It's like an all-in-one.
Yeah, check it out on our website underneath our blogs. We've got all our old podcasts on there as well, or previous ones. So you can get caught up on those if this is your first one or your second one and you want to listen to all of them, because you probably should.
It's good. It's good reading, good listening, good watching.
It's good.
It's good.
Okay, well, let's get started. So Kenny, you're an entrepreneur.
What are we doing, like a press junket?
Yeah.
Right now? Okay.
You would consider yourself an entrepreneur, yeah?
Yeah, I would.
I would think so.
I would think what you think. Yeah.
I'm pretty smart, so. Okay, well.
You're wearing plaid. You seem like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well then, okay, let's jump right into your story then. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? Did you always know you were an entrepreneur?
No is the short answer to that. So knowing it, which just made me think of an Office joke, because now you're going to know it instead of just me and Hannah knowing it. It's one of those things that looking back now, I see those signs, I see those clues, which is kind of the theme of our discussion today. I think I had leadership tendencies. And there were adults or other leaders that I had a lot at church, because I grew up in church. So pretty much if the doors were open, we were there. If there were activities to be had, we were participating. And if there was anything children's related, then I was thrown into whatever that program, event, or class was. So frequently I would be asked to maybe do like the lead role in like the children's play or the Christmas thing. I think some of it just had to do with the fact that I was outspoken. I mean, go figure, me talking. But no, I didn't really consider myself an entrepreneur. And growing up, I didn't want to be. As a matter of fact, I kind of despised business.
Why's that?
Some of that's because this is going to sound wrong, so apologies up front, Dad. But I considered my dad and my dad is very business savvy. I mean, he's just one of the smartest men that I know, and I deeply respect him. Now, growing up, was a different story, but I saw us as just being so diametrically opposed. We were different in personalities, the way we thought about the world, the way we thought about people. And so because I saw that we were so different and that he was involved in business, that I was interested in other things that had nothing to do with business savvy and all these other things. And I was like, I just care about people. Not that my dad didn't, but now, that I've educated myself on, like the different personality styles, whether it's Enneagram or DISC or Myers-Briggs or something like that, I can understand like his focus is not bad. It's just it's a unique thing for him, and then I have my own unique thing, and they both serve a purpose in the world and in the business place or marketplace. So yeah, it was something I didn't want to go into, so being a business owner now seems very, like if I had told 7, 8-year-old me hey, you're going to own your own business, and your main thing is going to be, sales and customer service, like that sort of stuff. Like, you're going to help people build their businesses and consult with them on their finances. Like, that would have just seemed like, hey, dude, you're on crack, because that's not me.
Yeah. Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit about starting the business then? Like, where were you when this came about?
So, I mean, a lot happened in between, being a kid and thinking about those things and starting this business. Initially, this business just started out of a need for survival. So, you may call me an accidental entrepreneur, or accidental, as Jason Swank says a lot on his podcasts and different things, is the accidental agency owner, is that you didn't set out to do that. So when I started the business, about 2 years before that, roughly 2 years before that, I had started doing more work in InDesign, doing like physical print, and we had a digital version, but layouts for the University of Texas at Tyler in their admissions department. So I was a recruiter, but I was asked to give some feedback on a newsletter that was happening in the international admissions department. And I told him, I was like, I don't think it looks very good, and I think would you mind if I came up with a version to improve on this? And they liked it, and we just kept going. So I kept learning more and more about print and layouts and things like that to add to, things that we can get into later, but that I had already started to learn about colors and layouts and fits and digital and things of that nature. But what really started to gain traction was when I started emailing a newsletter about leadership internally at an insurance agency I was working at the time. And internally, it was well received. I just sent some out weekly that I had learned because I was fascinated by leadership and leadership development. And then people outside of that wanted to learn what I was sharing, and they're like, can you add me to your list? And if you've ever used Outlook, which is a lot of people, I can't stand Outlook, but it's terrible for email distribution. So I said, let's do something else. Found MailChimp. Well, after a couple of months, there was too much information inside of the emails, and I said, I need a place for some of this stuff to live. So I found, I'd been listening to Michael Hyatt, and he talked about building a WordPress website. I said, well, I can do that. I'm tech savvy. It jumped in, built my first website, kennylang.com. There's still content there that you can go and check out, provided I didn't do something to break my site earlier this week, which may have happened, but that's okay. It's good stuff on there. But doing that was a huge catalyst for building a website, writing content on a regular basis, starting to understand the ins and outs of what we now do and offer for people. And after a while, it seemed like I wasn't jiving with insurance. It's just not built for me, and I'm not built for it. There's people who are great at it. They make a great living. They're good people, but it's not for me. And unfortunately, they realized that I wasn't a fit before I had found a way out. And they let me go, and it was the first time in 10 years that I had been let go from a job. It was really painful, but there was some relief in that. And so I thought, you know what, this is the time to make a change and pursue this digital career. And I found an agency that happened to be hiring. They didn't exactly know where to fit me because they were trying to hire for a different position, and they hired for that one, but they liked me, and so they hired me. We didn't have as much direction around what I needed to be doing, and I had no agency experience. And I was like, I don't know what exactly. I thought I was going to come in and do like blogging and content marketing and stuff, and that really wasn't what they wanted me to do. So at the end of my 90 days, they said, see ya. So I was at a really low point. in 4 months, I'd been let go twice without having been let go from any job or been without a job for over 10 years. And, had married, still married. We had 3 kids, and, we had bills. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just start building some websites for people, because I'd still cultivated that interest and been reading. One of the things I actually did was there was a customer who called into the agency I was at, and I fielded the call, and their base price was way higher than they could afford. And this is an established agency. I mean, they are just, they do some amazing stuff creatively. But this was a very small business who had a poor website, knew they needed an upgrade, but $5,000 was gigantic when they had spent maybe $100 up until that point for 20 years.
Right.
So I had a bit of a mourning period where I felt sorry for myself and angry and went through the stages of grief and chased small animals with a weed eater. No, I'm just kidding. We live in Texas,
Slip
okay?
that in there.
But what happened was I called them and said, hey, I actually did make it seem like I wasn't let go and I had gone out on my own. So that's a bit of, entrepreneurial creativity.
Tip 101.
Right. Lie. Not really. But I said, yeah, I can do a website for you for less. And they were interested, and I met with them and developed a website. They were one of the first clients that I had, and as a matter of fact, they're still a client of ours, and we've done different services, moved them to G Suite, we've done some tech support, they've actually become more like friends now, and they've also been super patient with me growing and learning like what in the hell I'm doing. And then my sister and brother-in-law had just opened a CrossFit gym with some other people, and they built a website on Wix, which I can't stand, but it was ugly as sin, and because one of the other owners built it, and quite frankly, they might have been better off without one. And I said, hey, I'll build it for you, and they paid me in CrossFit equipment, which was great because I couldn't afford to go to CrossFit anymore because I didn't have a job. I was starting my own thing. So I was like, okay, that'll work. That family discount. And after that, the church I was at needed a website, and so I quickly was like, oh, people will pay me for this, and not just in CrossFit equipment.
In actual money.
Yeah, actual dollars and cents. And so to get started really came out of a place of a little bit of desperation, but survival, and just looking at what do I have, because I had no money to invest. Anything needed to be safe so that we could eat, pay bills, and put gas in the cars and whatever the kids needed. So I was like, I have a MacBook Air, I have a TV tray because I didn't even have a real desk, and I was like, okay, I know how to talk to people, and I'm technically more savvy than most of the people around me. There's something there. The pieces are there, and it just kind of, I stumbled through the first several deals, and before I knew it, I was like, oh. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'll just freelance it, and then we've grown. But I know that's kind of a long answer, but really, discovering, there's a lot that led into June 2015 to start. So it wasn't just like this singular brilliant moment, but there were little things. But I will say, and for whoever you're listening, it wasn't, I had this brilliant idea and put it together, started working on this part. I had an interest and I cultivated it, but a lot of it came out of pain.
Yeah.
A lot of it came out of struggle, frustration, and not knowing what else to do. And I think some people have this idea that entrepreneurship is this, people have this beautifully laid out path. They follow it exactly. They've known since they or knee high to a grasshopper, and they take out and they do their thing, and there may be some people like that,
Yeah.
But at least for my path, that's not been the case.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting because a lot of the things that you read, specifically for people who are starting their entrepreneurial journey, it's not usually coming from that point of view or from that perspective. It's always because, hey, I started my business because I wanted to do it. I always had a love for this, or I always had a love for this, so I just started it. I just jumped in on the side and then eventually quit my 9-to-5 job and started doing this full time. So they have tips, coming out of their passion. So I think that's interesting that you. Let's take a moment and ask for some advice or some tips you would give people who are starting, because I think that's interesting to come from your perspective, who started a business and still didn't think they were an entrepreneur, and didn't seek out being an entrepreneur, but here you are, an entrepreneur. So you probably have different advice than most people who sought it out, wanted to be it,
I would say, some of it was out of frustration, because at almost every place I worked, I had this angst about, like, I see a way we could do it better, or could we try this, and I wanted that latitude. And while I certainly think that there are more and more businesses nowadays, just because it's more well documented, about giving employees or team members that voice and autonomy within their job, but I had some of it, but not maybe to the extent that I wanted it. I think that entrepreneurial spirit was churning, and it created some friction. So some of it was out of just frustration with not getting able to chase a vision that I had for the position I was in at the time. So I would say just take a look at what you have. Like, start where you are. I'll talk to people who are like, well, I got to get this, and I got to achieve this, and I need to learn this so I can do this and do that. And those things may all be true, but I think you need to downgrade what you are willing to consider version 1.0, where the starting line is. Because things that we do, I know, we know now as an agency, as an entrepreneur, seem so far distant from the 2.5 years ago when we started. And if I had said I need to know everything that I know now, then I never would have started. And so usually if you have that bit of angst of, I have something that I want to do a certain way, just start where you are. It may not be where you want to be. It may not look like you want it to look, but everybody started somewhere. And there's tons of stories about people's first version of their product being, just terrible. Because where you end up, you 99.9% I'm sure that you couldn't have written the script for that.
Yeah.
And there's tons of businesses that are like that. So I would say reassess what you're willing to consider your starting line. And just start with what you have and build it from there. Don't think you have to go out and get a lot before you can do.
Right. Okay, well, we're a few years into you starting your business, and it's obviously been successful. There's been growth. What would you say you can contribute most of that growth to? Just to encourage people that they can get 2.5 years, 3 years down the road and still be growing.
And not to sound cliche, but God has played a major role in that. The prayers of close friends and family that I would talk to weekly. But if there are some practical steps, which not that prayer is impractical, but regardless of your faith that you could implement. One of the things I did early on was to develop an advisory board, and it's not super formal. Like, I keep saying that we're going to meet quarterly, and we don't. We kind of meet as needed. But there were a group of 4 to 5 guys, men that had different backgrounds and different current roles, but I gave permission to speak into my life and that I could trust to be honest. I think a lot of businesses fail because of the whole emperor has no clothes thing. So I need people to tell me if I'm naked.
Right.
Which I think we should all be told if we're naked and running around in town.
I think you might need some help if you don't know.
There are great psychiatric facilities.
We can point you to one.
Maybe some better glasses.
Maybe.
If you're perceiving your skin to be clothing.
Maybe.
But having people, so you don't have to set it up and say like, this is my advisory board, like I did that. But if you want to talk to a few people and say, hey, I'd like to periodically, when I'm having ideas, developing a product, pricing, hitting a wall, or something like that, can I come to you? Can I talk to you? Can I bounce it off of you? And will you just be blunt honest? Like, if it's great, please, I need the encouragement. But if it sucks, I need that equally. And provide some perspective. And I'm not saying you have to take everything that they say, because at the end of the day, it's your butt on the line. But certainly, I believe in the scripture that there is wisdom in a multitude of counselors. And regardless of your faith background or orientation, or you say you have none, I don't think you can argue that if you have intelligent people who care about you and will be honest, giving you feedback, that you're not going to be better off for it. So that's a huge one. The other is like a crap ton of hard work. And you can't get around that.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit on your butt and work 4 hours a day and build anything worthwhile. So I don't care what any commercial or email ad you just got says that you can make an extra $3,000 a month, typing in some whatever crap. You're going to have to work hard, and initially it may be just long hours. And because that's the one thing, Gary Vee has talked about this, and I still find it true that one of the things that you have as an early stage entrepreneur or early stage business is you may not have all the capital, especially like us. We didn't seek out investors or take out a small business loan or anything. I used credit cards on a couple of things and paid those off quickly. So we've been profitable from the get-go, and we are a completely client-funded business.
Right.
Now, we're going to grow slower than venture capital or small business loan businesses. And you know what? That's okay. Our goal is to be around in the next 30, 60, 90 years.
Yeah.
When, my hair's falling out. So, I would say be prepared to work hard, but you need to have a sense of where you need to be working, like figure out, and it's different for every business, but just figuring out where you need to spend your time and then apply focused effort there. So like Dave Ramsey, one of their, I think it's a core value, is the momentum theorem. And I think we're seeing the benefits of that, especially like this year and this, the last, 4 or 5 months, is focused intensity over time multiplied by God equals unstoppable momentum.
Right.
Again, regardless of your faith orientation, focused intensity over time will do a lot. Now, because of our faith, we believe that God jumps in and multiplies that.
Yeah.
And we're able to see the benefits of that because we serve a loving and caring God. But even people who don't believe that same thing have, there's plenty of people who they were focused and intense, and over time, it got them where they want to go. Steve Jobs, Gary Vee, and there's those are the two that jump out because I've probably read something about them recently, but there's plenty of other people. So yeah, I would say get people who are open and honest, be prepared to work hard, and then figure out where you need to go.
Okay, I want to go back just a second. I want to talk about, next steps and advice for people who are already entrepreneurs and continuing and whatnot, but I want to take it back because we're talking about, discovering or knowing if you're an entrepreneur, and we talked about the fact that you didn't until you started your business.
And even then, I'm not convinced.
But are there some, hard, things that we can talk about, like hints, discoveries, like if you're doing this and this and this and this, you're probably an entrepreneur. If this and this,
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things in looking back would be the fact that I built my first website when I was 8. And that was my friend and I. We hated the Four Horsemen wrestling group, and we decided that we disliked them enough to build a website about it. So if you find yourself caring passionately even about things like wrestling, and you find yourself taking action in some sort of way that's maybe semi-public and involves other people, I think that can be a clue. If you're frequently asked to step into a leadership role, that can be a clue. When I was built the first website when I was 8. When I was 10, 10 or 11, I was selling Pokemon cards, which had just come out, and they were huge and they were awesome. Yeah, you can tell I'm a nerd. Wrestling, websites, Pokemon. It doesn't get better. So I would buy these trading cards or playing cards, and I had a little book that gave the value of all of them, and I was selling them. And so I'd make $4 or $5 before lunch almost every day. And then I had these really valuable ones. I would trade them in and get a bunch more packs, which gave me a lot more to trade. And I still have some of those cards because I never sold out the whole thing. It was just a cycle ongoing throughout that 1 to 2 school years. And so looking back, I was like, okay, so I was already doing sales then. Yeah. And you may not be the sales side. Like some people have co-founders, and there's especially in software, there's one person who's typically the very technically gifted, and one person who's the face and is very people gifted and on sales. But I'd say if you're an entrepreneur, you need to look back and see, do you have any sort of sales aptitude or tendencies? The other part, I would say, was that through in college, I jumped in founding something. I was a founding member of a local chapter of Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. That was attractive to me, was being a founding member, being first. When the first iPhone came out, it was a big deal to me to purchase something first. So that puts me, maybe in the early adopters. I wasn't an innovator. I didn't create the iPhone. Yeah. I created a men's Bible study group that grew very quickly over a semester. That just started out of nothing, just me. It was mostly because this one guy was going through a hard time, and I decided that it would be good if he was surrounded by other guys. And we started meeting at a table in the kind of common area food court, and eventually it got to where we would just meet at my apartment. And I would bring up new initiatives at other businesses. So if you're bringing those sort of things up, just over time, just looking hey, I think we should be doing this. I think we should be looking ahead. I think, this is new. This is coming out. This would set us apart. If you're doing things like that, if you like to be the very first or early on, and you have ideas and that you're just constantly pitching, good chance you're an entrepreneur. And at some point you pick an idea, you stick with it, and you put your stake in the ground, and you say, this is mine, I'm going to go do this.
That's good. Okay, well, I know that next steps are going to look a little bit different per business when you talk about like specific ones.
Sure.
Are there a couple broad things that could apply to other entrepreneurs that you're looking to start doing, things you've started implementing that you know is going to help take the business to the next level?
Yeah, start figuring out what you're good at, what you suck at. And be honest with yourself and have those people that are honest with you tell you what you suck at. And because I know that there's stuff that I suck at. Don't speak up. The people around you will know it too. It's just a matter of whether or not that there's a spirit of openness around that.
Right.
So things on next steps was I started figuring out, one is how could I create, no matter what your business is, do you have a sustainable model for generating revenue? So I knew, because in the first year, we generated as much revenue as, or I think it was off by maybe $100 or $200, but I generated as much revenue as I had in salary for the past like 3 years. And so I was like, oh, sweet. But none of it was recurring.
Right.
So you got to go back out and you got to hunt again. Now, technically, you're never done hunting and bringing in new business. However, there are ways to build into your business model a way to generate recurring revenue, which creates stability, which allows you to, maybe project far enough to make some business decisions to take advantage of some growth opportunities, whether that's investing in software, third-party services, a consultant that could help you, or a coach, which I'm a fan of, or hire somebody. And in my case, I started figuring out, because we're with websites, is, we should do these web care plans.
Yeah.
Because people need their site taken care of after we've designed it, because sites deteriorate just like any good vehicle, because updates are happening, security issues, performance, stuff like that. So, and it was a way to extend value. So that was the other part, was your business model, like you can build in recurring revenue by, or just a more sustainable model by figuring out what are other things that would add value to my customer base. And you can start there and then also figure, because it's likely that would extend to new customers that you haven't even acquired.
Yeah.
And then the other part was finding a way to bring in help. Now, some people may be looking to go the freelancer route, and that's fine. If it's just you, cool. But because you're going to get maxed out, and within that, your only option is to continue to raise your rates, which you should be doing. I felt weird about that at first, but I can tell you, get over it. And maybe do it incrementally, and just start moving the needle. Because once I did that, I was like, holy crap, I have more money when I charge more. Duh. And then suddenly I was like, oh, well, now I'm not just like paying my bills and keeping the lights on and not, feeding my kids. I can actually afford to invest in maybe some better software, and one of the biggest things that I believe that we did this year, which I've talked, maybe not on the podcast, but talked about internally, was hiring you as the first employee, team member. I don't like the word employee, but it's a legal IRS term. So hiring you, I was like, I can teach, I can train, I can lead, but I didn't exactly know, like, how do I hand this off? I also have some trust issues. Plus, when you're hiring and you're early on, you can't afford the people who are like, I've been doing this for 10 years, tons of experience, got existing That's not an option. And honestly, the more, now that we've looked at it and we're, 11 months down the road, I wouldn't want to go that route of hiring the super experienced. I like people who have, hire for mindset, train for skill set, because we want to teach and train, and that was a decision on our part. But if you're starting out, finding inexperienced people that you can teach to do certain things inside of your business, it's hard to put into words the weight that is taken off of you.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is lonely.
Yeah.
In certain aspects, because it's hard to find people who really understand.
Mm.
Because the best thing, because I've thought about this a lot over this year, that we've talked with a lot more people than we have, in the year and a half before you came on board and a lot of other things happened, was the best way I can explain this is the difference between being like the owner, the entrepreneur, and being a team member, even a high-level team member, you may be over departments or something else, is, in my opinion, and I may be stealing this, so sorry to whoever I'm stealing this from, is the difference between being the child and being the parent.
Right.
And I don't mean that to say that people employed other, if you're not the owner, that somehow that's a demeaning thing to you.
Yeah.
But to help explain, for those of you who are parents, about to become parents, or right around there, the world changes.
Yeah.
It is so much different, and suddenly, especially if you get a few years in, so like my oldest is going to turn 8 in the next couple weeks, as of this recording, and then we'll have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And getting into it, I start thinking through like their reactions to stuff we do, and then trying to think back to my childhood, and it's like, I just assumed some of this stuff happened.
Yeah.
Or my parents just knew, in like, they had a book or a knowing or something like, you do this and you do this. Like, I just thought, that's just what is done. This is just how it is done.
Yeah.
And when you jump out and become an entrepreneur, it's like being a first-time parent.
Yeah.
And you're scared out of your mind. I don't care what kind of this. You can have a 5-year business plan, but to quote the great philosopher Mike Tyson, is everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And being an entrepreneur is like being punched in the face every day.
Mm.
And that doesn't sound pleasant, but there's a trade-off there that keeps us going. So understanding that you're going from essentially being like a child in the household to being the parent, the head of the household, and now suddenly everything's on you. While that's great freedom, it's a big weight of responsibility.
Yeah.
Especially once you start adding team members, because now you're like, oh, they need me to perform at a certain level because they are depending on that check to clear every month. And for a certain amount of security and all these other things. And so while I would say it is one of the best things, it's provided a lot of difficulty, but I think we've navigated it well, and that's some of just making sure you hire intelligently. So those would be, I think I may have wandered off from your point, which is not unusual. But in taking those next steps, you got to continue to develop yourself. But if you do want to grow, it's got to be sustainable. It's got to be recurring. You got to find a way. Build. We're focused on marketing and sales, and you got to market yourself, and you got to be good at sales. And I say, if you have to pick one, be really good at sales. That way, if your marketing kind of sucks, or you're not great at it, or you're not getting that many leads, that at least the ones you do get, you got a really good chance at closing them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you just a lot of marketing. There's a quote that says, is it bad? Good marketing only makes bad products fail faster. Mm. So if you suck at sales or your product sucks, then if you have really great marketing, you just attracted a bunch of people to a train wreck. Yeah. And then the other thing I would say that has felt at times like a handicap, but really it's a blessing and has been tremendously helpful, has been kind of slow, steady growth.
Right.
In that we've actually been able to enjoy a time where not a lot of people knew about us, and it gave us this cloud cover to improve our product and our process and our delivery. And so, we've been able to keep the lights on, and we'll finish this year at double the revenue of last year, which is fantastic and awesome, and I'm excited about that, and what that means for next year. However, We're starting to come out a little bit more, and more people are seeing us. But we've had time to really figure out, like, how do we want to deliver these services in such a way that our clients want to tell other people they know.
Right.
And so sometimes that slow, steady, while it is probably more emotionally exhausting, and it makes you antsy, honestly, can be a blessing in disguise.
Cool. That's good. I think.
Hope that's helpful for someone.
Well, I think you covered pretty much every base.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. No.
All right. No. So, I mean, as much as that was advice, there was a little bit of inspiration in it, which was going to be my last thing. Give advice, but do you have any last bit of inspiration that you want to send to the new entrepreneurs or those thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, those who are wrestling with the idea if they are an entrepreneur or not?
Yeah, I would say if you're okay, so I may have to split my answer. So if you're wrestling with it, just do something. Take one action. In the next lockdown, in the next 30 days, you will take at least one action that moves you closer to taking that step.
Right.
Because if you're not going to take action, but you keep talking about you have great ideas at work and no one listens, or you have this $1 million idea, if you're not going to take action, shut up. Seriously, it's annoying as hell to hear those people talk about the one day and I'll get that and nobody listens to my idea. You're annoying the hell out of people at work. You're irritating your bosses, which is probably hurting your chances for advancement. So either put up or shut up.
Yeah.
That's not that encouraging. But I would say if you can take one step in the next 30 days and then figure out the next right step and just continually take a step and take a step, view this like it's like being a baby. You need to see your development as an entrepreneur as essentially starting over from birth.
Right.
Okay? And so far that I know of, no baby has sprinted out of the womb. Okay? Maybe Usain Bolt did, but understand that it'll take you a little bit to get going, and don't be as hard on yourself about that. For those who are maybe just getting started, just launched, about to launch, whatever, planning to launch, I would say it's going to be a lot harder than you think, but it's not as scary as it seems. So you're going to get punched in the face, and that's going to be okay. You're not going to die. And so if you see everything... Gary Vee talks about this. I keep referencing him, but he has so much good stuff. But I think there's other people who've referenced this. But if you look at the bad thing that may have happened, the mistake you made, but view it in comparison to, did you die? Did anybody else die? Did a loved one die? No? All right. Well, then you got another shot at it. You screwed up on a project and lost a client. Guess what? There's more clients. Yeah. There's 330 million people in the U.S. alone. If you're listening to this in the U.S., there's over almost 30 million small businesses. That means businesses under the size of 500 employees in the U.S. There's more where that came from.
Right.
So if you didn't die, you get a chance to do it again tomorrow and try and do better and learn from it.
Yeah.
So understand it's going to be hard. So don't think it's like, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to build it and they're going to come. They will not, because people don't care. Yeah. You have to make them care. Right. So I would encourage you by saying be prepared, but understand that failure is not fatal unless you quit.
That's good. I think that's a good line to end on, because that's the takeaway.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that's a big part of the reason why we're not here. Is I just either I'm too stupid or I'm too stubborn to quit.
Well,
Don't speak into that.
Wasn't sure how I was going to answer that question, but
work your way out of that one.
I think we'll just avoid that one. But no, I think that's great. I hope everybody listening to this found that encouraging.
Me too.
And I guess it is now time. We haven't done this in so long that I'm forgetting our rhythm of how we record.
Shout out.
We're going to go into our shout outs.
Well, I would love to shout out our very... That's awesome. For those of you who can't see, we on our mic stands have this little...
doodad.
Yeah, it's a doodad that can hold your phone, an iPad, and this bad boy on Hannah's mic is just like swinging itself down. It's smacking the mic. I would screw this part in.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah,
there's
if you look at the whole thing.
I don't know how that happened in the first place.
So that was funny. So shout outs. David, our infinitely patient audio engineer, who's doing cool stuff. And when is this podcast being pushed out? Like a week from today?
Probably.
Or in 2 weeks?
Probably, not this coming Tuesday, I would assume the next Tuesday.
Okay, so we do Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So
definitely by this. So by the time this airs, the DM Audio website should be up and live, and that is dmaudioPros.com. There's some cool stuff that David and his team are going to be doing, going so far as helping with music video production, Facebook video production for the audio and the actual video part of that. Duh. But also other more traditional sound setup. So dmaudioPros.com. Go visit it or email David at dmaudioPros.com. The other ones are Quietdrive, our intro. The name of the song is Rise from the Ashes, which is perfect because we be phoenixes.
Right.
And that not be English. And then Illenium, who had a new album drop towards the end of September. It is a phenomenal album.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah, and there's a giant phoenix on the cover.
They knew.
There's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of subliminal. Well, that makes it sound like we're doing weird stuff. But anyways, go check out Illenium on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere you can listen to some good jams.
Good jams. Got so excited about that I just almost fell out of my seat.
It's like my son. He can be sitting perfectly still, and I'll look away, I'll look back, and he's on the floor. So I'm not sure what's happening with the chairs he sits in or what he's sitting in throughout the day that's causing that, but we'll work it out. Am I forgetting anybody else to shout out?
I really don't think so. We'll make more friends along the way.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it'll be more than just you, me, and our 3 shout outs and 2 of the people we don't even know. So
we'll throw that in there.
We'll throw that in there. But anyways, we're excited to be releasing new tracks. So this was fun. And I would say if you have anybody listening, if you have questions, if you have topics, hit us up at the website, Phoenix 21. At the website. If you don't know where the website is, I can't tell you. If you have to ask, you don't need to know.
But in case you don't know, we'll go ahead and tell you.
Phoenix21creative.agency. That's PHNX21creative.agency. And you can contact us, book a call with me, or you can send something to hello@phoenix21creative.agency. Because we want to make sure that we're making content and talking about things that are valuable to you, that you want to hear about. This is not just so we can hear ourselves talk and play with microphone stands. So
True.
Anything else? True.
I don't believe so. So we're gonna get out of here, guys. As always, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for listening to the Business Rising podcast. This has been Kenny Lang, the founder, and Hannah Bauer. And until next time, keep rising.
Do we have any questions from the Facebook people? We have one viewer, and I feel like it's probably my mom.
Maybe.
Is it my mama?
Let me see.
That's cool. I don't want to know. Keep it a mystery.
Yeah.
Facebook, we love you. Thank you for turning in.
Thank you very much.
If you're watching at night, go turn in, because it's bedtime. Get one of those cool sleep hats. We've enjoyed being back. Same thing to you. If there are topics, subjects, conversations you would like us to have, people you'd like us to interview, because I think that's going to be something as we start to evolve the format of the podcast, that we would like to maybe bring some other people into the mix. So if you have any requests for anything, make that signal and include it along with your request. Yeah, we need a picture of you doing that along with the request.
That'd actually be pretty funny.
That would be.
Can you?
Maybe it would just be a picture of you doing that, and then we're going to make memes.
Cool. Anyway, thanks Facebook Live.
Peace.